Hey guys, what's going on? So today I want to talk about the new Stern James Bond 007 pinball table. It was announced. I'm very excited about it. There's a few things that kind of come up that were surprising to me about this table and about its designer. And just kind of make a little point what I think, and then hopefully we'll get the stream soon so we'll actually see what the gameplay and the code and everything's like. But before that, I want to show you guys something really cool. So my friend Sarah recently came over this weekend to help me out, and we just went out, and she's into photography and shooting pictures and things like that. So we went out on town, enjoyed some of the last days of summer that we were going to get. And while she was over here, some of my artwork and stuff showed up for Cactus Canyon. So I have the new translate, I have new art in there. I actually have a topper on it right now, a third-party topper. That is kind of in transition because while it's on there, it can't be powered on because I'm waiting for the harness. But I just wanted to show you guys really quick because I thought it was cool. So this art is actually by Brian Allen. So the interior blades went in fairly easy. It seemed like I couldn't line up the bolts quite right, so I need to back the bolts off and put them over the sticker so it just looks a little bit better. But other than that, I really like the translate and the way it looks compared to the original. I think it's a much more cohesive design. I like how the art kind of goes back into the back panel of the pinball table and everything. And I'm just really proud of it. I think at this point, with the mods that I have in the table, I'm effectively done with this table. I don't really feel like I need to do much more to it. But I just wanted to take a moment before we get into the James Bond stuff to thank Sarah for her help. That would have been a real pain in the ass if I didn't have somebody else there to kind of spot me and help me out with the stickers and stuff. It ended up being very helpful for the translate too, because as I've cut my nails, I had nothing to really grab and get the lip of the little moldings on to get the new translate in there. So that was a big help too. So if you guys like to see her kind of stuff and her work, so her thing is Sarah's Gone Adventuring on Instagram. Go check it out. She's got some really cool shots, and she takes a lot of macros and does this thing where hey, guess what it is, and you can see what the results are the next day. So it's pretty cool. Okay, so Stern has announced that James Bond 007, and it finally shown it off. There was a little bit of a delay because of the Queen's passing. That's understandable. I guess some parties were just not, okay with releasing something about basically a character in Her Majesty's Secret Service when Her Majesty just passed away, so fair enough. I didn't want to do a video on this why everybody was speculating and there was fuzzy internet videos out there, because I wanted to see a little bit more of it before I even started talking about it. And we'll probably most definitely get a stream in the future diving a little bit more deep into the rules and stuff, and I'll give you more of an opinion on what I think. Will I be picking this up? Do I think this is something that you really need to have? But I do have some thoughts right off the bat here. So as far as this table design goes, it is George Gomez. Now, if you look at my personal collection, one of my games is Deadpool. I absolutely freaking love that game. I'm excited to play it all the time. I love the rule sets and everything in there, and I love how simplistic that table is, but it's just everything just kind of gels perfectly for me. I don't know what it is. I hear a lot of people complain about some of the shots, like the Colossus shot and stuff like that. Funny thing is I can do Colossus shot all day, and I have a hard time with Snick. So, and knowing that Deadpool is made by Gomez, and here comes another Gomez table at 007, I'm really excited to see what this is on live stream. I cannot wait to see. Now, I didn't realize how much of a past I actually had with Gomez as far as growing up and stuff like that. Turns out Gomez has worked on not just a lot of pinball tables, but a lot of other projects. And one of my favorite games is still to this day, I'll take it, pop it into my NES, and I'll be like, I'm gonna play for 15 minutes. I end up playing for 2 hours, just keep on trying to get further and further in the game, is Spy Hunter. And I didn't realize Spy Hunter was a Gomez designed game back in the day in Midway. So although he didn't probably do the NES version at Sunsoft, it's a very good, port of it. But man, I have so many memories of going into the arcade and playing Spy Hunter and having the cool lights for the missiles and the smoke screen and the oil and all that. And you could tell that the car in the arcade version was pretty much supposed to be a play on James Bond's DB5. One of the things that you're going to see between the Pro and the Premium is how the art is kind of laid out. Now, some people have been, kind of oh, the art doesn't look that good. But when you understand what the limitations are, they were not allowed to change any of the art assets. They had to use the original art assets, and they weren't allowed to change anything at all. So on one side, the different tables, you're going to have Dr. No for the Pro. You're going to have You Only Live Twice for the premium, and you have Thunderball for the LE. On the opposite side of these, and the one thing you can kind of look at it in a way is most pros and even some premiums, I believe, will have one type of art on one side of the table and it's just mirrored or reversed, and it's the same thing on the other side. Even on the Pro this time, you're getting at least something different on both sides. It is a very yellow looking table, and I kind of dig it actually. I kind of like it's different looking. We haven't seen anything quite like it in the Stern lineup. But on the opposite side, you're going to have like movie posters and stuff, and it's the same on the Only Live Twice. Playfield art is the same on all 3 tables, and this is where it really looks awesome. I think that playfield looks so sick, like the different colors and stuff that kind of like the blacks and like the reds and the blues and the stuff that kind of pop up in there all look really fantastic and mix really well. And for some weird reason, it gives me Spy Hunter vibes. I don't know why, but it just does. I think the actual translate on the back of the box looks pretty good on all of them, and then the Thunderball back glass on the LE looks fantastic. So I don't really have a problem with the art in a lot of different ways. I think it's going to rub people different way, you know, just because of the color scheme. The yellow is really loud, and it does stick out for the Pro, but I think because of that, it may draw more attention when it's on location in a bar. That's something we'll have to wait and see, but I will tell you, if I was to compare the 007 games compared to, like, say my Deadpool that has Zombie Yeti art on it, hands down, the Deadpool looks way better in this aspect, by far. But yeah, I don't necessarily hate the art on 007. I think people are being a little bit too harsh on it, but it is an opinion. That's just mine. Okay, one of the things people always give Gomez a hard time over is a lot of his games are 2 flipper games, and this time around he actually has 3 flippers. He has an upper left flipper that feeds into a right ramp or a right side ramp. The ramp itself is cool. The ramps are all metal with wireform guides, just like Deadpool. It's what I personally prefer, just because of wear and tear reasons, and it's great to see it on the Pro model. So the upper left flipper will actually feed it's a henchman shot. So there are henchmen, villains, and Bond girls. For the left flipper, you can feed into the Bond girl shot, which is just feed into the right orbit and back around to that flipper again. So it's got a lot of flow to it. You can shoot into that right side ramp from the left flipper, similar to something you would see like on an Elwyn game. And that'll give you your henchmen, and then your villains you can shoot on that lower left flipper up into the right ramp. The cool thing is the way the ramp is designed. It's actually 2 ramps feeding into the same wire form, so that's very cool. And then there's a 3rd ramp that you can shoot from the right flipper up to the left orbit. Instead of going orbit all the way around, instead it'll go up into a little ramp and then feed down to another wire form into your right flipper. Or left flipper. Yeah, left flipper. The cool thing is when you shoot those villain or henchman shots, it's going to go down that wire form and feed into the right in lane of the flipper, and there's a post there to stop it for a second. So they've kind of talked about this being like a moment where it'll start a mode, you can kind of sit there, take a breather, you'll see some like probably like scenes from some of the Connery Bond movies up on the screen and stuff like that. But it's just a nice little moment for you to chill, similar to like something like Jurassic Park. And on my Cactus Canyon, it has posts on both sides for gunfights, so you'll see like the drop targets pop up. So it's just a nice little moment just to take a break. This table has so much cool stuff on it, and even on the Pro model, you get a nice little shot right underneath that right ramp that goes into a little area there that's going to feed into like a little wave, or what call it, like a little dugout or like a little hole. And that's going to be what they call the Q branch stuff. So they're going to bring in like a lot of 007 gadgets into this from the Q branch. They're going to interact with the game in different ways, and you feed into there, and a Vux shoots it straight up into a molded DB7. I believe it looks like the headlights work on it, and it's got a little door on the top to mimic the ejection seat from the game. So it'll feed up into a wire form that will bring it back into that right wire form. Will feed back into the in lane for that right flipper. Okay, underneath that left flipper is a little area. If you look in there, there's like a little nook and a little rubber stopper. So you can actually shoot up in there and it feeds into a scoop. The interesting thing about this scoop that I love is how different it is. Most scoops, most of the time, when you feed them, will shoot back out towards the flippers for you to continue playing the game. On this one, instead, you're shooting up towards this little area where the ball falls down in, and there's a little like plastic in there that lights up. That's like a little scene of like James Bond fighting a villain from Thunderball, and that's what you're gonna see through this whole thing. You're gonna see stuff from like all the Connery movies. There's parts of the entire layout of the table that are dedicated to different parts of different movies and stuff like that. Okay, now let's talk about Bird 1. Bird 1 looks to be, this whole entire area looks very cool. It's big long missile, very phallic looking, big long shaft sticking out of the pinball table. There's a lot of open area around there for it to wiggle and move around. So to me, what this looks like is a similar kind of, well, probably different, but similar in a way that like little Deadpool worked, where you'd hit the target, Deadpool like wiggles around on springs and stuff. This whole mechanism seems to be some kind of spring driven thing. So around the top of that are 7 stand-up targets, Spectre stand-up targets that apparently will add to some kind of bonus multiplier or something in the game. And the more of those that you hit, the higher up your multiplier goes. So in the back panel, you can actually see the word Spectre, and apparently this is where you light those. So it looks like you just like kind of feed the ball up in there. The rocket's like on a spring, it rocks back and forth. It hits a little rubber part of the rocket and then hits the stand-ups, I would guess. And then in front of that, you have drop targets. So there's one way in, even with the drop targets up, but once the drop targets are down, it looks like you can feed it from both ways. Once you hit the drop targets, this is how you activate ball locks. There's a lane to the right of Bird 1 that feeds back around into the orbit, back down to the left upper flipper. That is going to light your ball locks, and that's how you do it. And it ball locks, and it looks like the jetpack stuff that's on the ramp that you feed up the left orbit, and it comes back around. It seems like those two things are virtual on this particular table. Okay, so what do you get if you go up to the premium? The premium, you're going to get, first of all, that Bird 1. That ball lock is no longer a virtual thing, it is now physical. So the ball lock is interesting because it is a diverter device. So once you hit those drop targets and the ball lock kicks on, there's an actual diverter that kicks in there. That ball's going to go in that diverter into the scaffolding or whatever you call it for a rocket. And inside there's a VUC, similar to how there's a VUC in the back building on Godzilla that starts loading the balls into the top of the building before it drops. So that VUC's going to go up, it's going to go into a wire form that coolly goes around the, actually I think it goes that way around the Bird 1 model. And the lock, the actual ball lock itself, looks very much like the same mechanism that they used in the handle of the Deadpool katana. The other difference is there's a lock post in the jetpack ramp. So when you shoot up in there and there's a little post that comes down, there's also a little extra, what people are calling bond on a wand or bond on a stick. So there's a little James Bond figure with the jetpack, and instead like a little plastic up there. So the fact that the plastic is on the Pro still tells me there's something with the jetpack going on. But the little Bond on the stick has a magnet, and he comes over and picks your ball up and he moves it over, and there's a Dragon tank target that it drops on. From what I hear later on, you'll actually be able to control the movement of the jetpack and where the ball possibly drops or something like that. Maybe you could like drop it into the wire form on Bird 1 to like kind of skip the ball lock process of hitting the drop targets. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see when the stream comes on. Okay, and the last major difference on the Premium and the LE is when you shoot into that little left Thunderball underwater fight scene. On the Pro, it's a piece of plastic with a little printed thing that just lights up when, I'm guessing, that mode's activated. On the Premium LE, he's doing a very similar effect that he did to Monster Bash, where the creature from the Black Lagoon, it would light up and there would be a little figure under there. So now there's a figure of like Bond and another guy fighting to the death under there with like a little scuba scene and some art and stuff like that. And that's only visible when you hit that and that light comes on underneath. Overall, whether you were to get the Premium or you were to get the Pro, for like a location or for yourself or something, I think you're getting a lot with this table just by looking at the mechanics and stuff of it. The fact that you're getting those metal ramps with wire forms. The spinner on this thing is a opto spinner, which is I think like 3 times more expensive than the regular switch spinners. The whole mech with Bird 1, regardless if it has the ball lock or not, is something you can kind of take or leave it. It's just a little extra thing that adds a little bit of flair, but necessarily you don't need to have a physical ball lock, it's fine. I think if there's anything I got the Pro for that I would miss would probably be the art, because I tend to like the art on the Premium a little bit better, and the bond on the stick, the little jetpack bond. I think that is really cool. I'm curious how it's going to interact with the Dragon Tank, and I'm curious about the interactivity of it later on in the game. As far as looking at it right now, any concerns with wear and tear, there's a little bit more of a concern than I would normally have. That little area that seems to be routed for the Thunderball underwater scene, whether you have the Premium or the Pro, there's a little routed part where the plastic piece is there for either the sight glass underneath or the just regular arted scene there. I have concerns of some chipping with some of that going on right there on that routed edge. I also have some concerns with chipping maybe on some of the ball guide areas. And this is not really so much a design flaw, but I've just noticed that one of my problems with Stern has been some of the attention to detail. I've noticed this on some of my tables when they get here, like ball guides being like just, you know, tightened down as much as they can. And so when the ball hits it, then it starts chipping, so I like have to back them off. I've had this on like Mandalorian. I've also had this on Deadpool. So these are things that once you kind of realize how Sterns are sometimes, you can kind of prevent. On my Deadpool, I had drop targets that were mounted too far back, so they wouldn't drop when they were hit from the left flipper a lot of times. So I had to like kind of like Dremel the mechanism out and move it forward a couple of millimeters. But that routed hole for that right there, that has a little bit of concern. I think what's going on is the scoop is probably, hopefully, bent to the point where when the ball kicks up, it doesn't really touch that edge whatsoever. The ball's actually kind of like flying through the air and doesn't make contact with the table until after it's past that point. I would hope that's the way it's going to work. Only time's going to be able to tell. Overall, with the criticisms of the art and the overall theme of the table, at the end of the day, the thing I'm really seeing is a really cool layout and design by George Gomez that I'm very, very excited for. And I gotta be honest, if this thing is anywhere as cool as Deadpool is, I might have to start selling some pinball machines. But where's that Thunderball scoop shoot to? That's what I want to know. Is it pop bumpers? Man, if that thing shoots and feeds the left flipper, that is going to be so freaking cool. But anyways, can't wait to see the stream. Can't wait to see what this looks like. It's always a good day when a new pinball machine's born. I'm so freaking happy to see this. And you guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. Are you excited to see this on location and play it? Will you be possibly getting one? Like, let me know. I'm still kind of like waiting just to see a little bit of everything else. I never buy a machine without playing it, so it's going to be a little while if I decide to pull the trigger on it. So if you like this kind of content, give me a thumbs up, you know, subscribe, tell your friends, and, you know, guys, do that stuff. Help me stay motivated to keep making videos like this. I do enjoy doing this, and I'd probably do this in one capacity or the other, but I gotta tell you, I'm like a little bit more motivated if I see like a lot of good, like, you know, thumbs up and stuff on the video. So anyway, see you guys in the next one. Bye.